30-hour flight.
This guy got a 30-hour flight and kept up with him on West Coast Highway.
I did 0 pulls at there.
He was like, hey, I ride this Rosa here, right? Then when I go home, when I go back to my Toma, I'll be flying, man. Wow, I don't need anything. Die.
I think if you want to like make reference to your bike, you can just look at the screen rather than looking up.
Half the bike not in frame, is it?
Cannot fit. No, your bike's too big, man.
Actually, it's only a 53.
I think the rack is a bit high. I just want to do a sound check.
Oopsies.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sounds good. Okay.
How loud do you speak, by the way? I think you got to be a bit closer, so it's a bit more.
So
you
this
can
distance,
you can move it nearer to you if you want.
like that?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Whoa.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Sweet.
Okay, we're gonna roll. All right, Hern, thank you for coming.
Okay.
Welcome to, I want to say welcome to Upper Boon King, but we're not in Upper Boon King anymore. This is Weekend Bike Feeder Bicycle Ranch. We've got a lot of people watching here, by the way. Two of them are your buddies. Yeah, supporters who all came on my show before. How do you know them, by the way?
Music Century. Because we used to do audio lah.
Oh.
And I also buy a lot of shit from them. I throw a lot of money at them. Now I throw money at bikes, so that's how it starts.
Oh, so you are studying in the US, right?
Yes, 2.5 years already.
Okay, so you're just back here for holidays.
The winter break, yes. Now it's below freezing where it is.
Right.
Might as well bring my bike here, come and ride here.
Okay. Well, this is some ancient shit going on, man. I don't even know how to interview you. Look at your friends; they're laughing behind there. But you don't ride these kind of bikes, right? You have like a F12, I heard.
No, honestly, I would say I put as many miles on steel bikes as I put on my carbon fiber bikes. Because before this bike, I actually had another steel bike, a Schwinn made out of like Columbus tubing. But the thing is, like, I rode that bike when my dogma was being built.
Oh.
So I put, I think, roughly about 2,000 kilometers in like maybe 2 or 3 months on that bike.
Wait, so let me get the story straight, right? Why are you riding grandfather bikes? Like, you're not that old.
Okay, here's the problem. When I started riding over there, I used this bicycle shop that is called Virtual Cycles. Then they had quite a few mechanics in there, but like the mechanic who built my bike, he used to actually build custom steel bikes. So he would build custom steel bikes for like national races, like for either track cycling, road cycling, mountain bikes as well. So he tried to slowly poison me into getting steel bikes. And the thing is, I think he had one steel frame hanging on the wall. Then before that, I thought steel bikes are all super heavy, like more than 15 kg. Why would you ride a steel bike? But he took that frame down, and he showed me on the scale, and he let me carry. And I would say that is probably as light as a alu frame. I think the total frame and fork weight was about 1,700 grams.
Wow.
Yeah. So that changed my perception of what a steel bike can be, like how light it can be and how like compliant it can be.
So you're gonna say steel is real, and carbon is not?
Carbon is fake lah. I mean,
but you have a carbon bike, right?
I would say I actually regret the carbon bike a bit because you drop so much money on a mass-produced frame, and you realize that. wow. Okay. I see. Okay, imagine like you buy a carbon bike that costs maybe $500 to manufacture, but then they sell you the bike for $5,000 for the frame, compared to maybe a steel bike where most of the money you're putting down on the frame is in labor costs. Because you need skilled labor to weld the frame, to actually finish the frame properly, make sure there's no internal stresses during the construction of the frame.
But if you're talking about performance and stuff, right, this is definitely not going to win. Sorry, this tree is just poking my damn head, man.
Once you closer inside.
I'll sit there. yeah. But I mean, back to the question, right? If you're talking about performance and stuff, like this is no way going to be beating a carbon frame, right? I mean, you can talk about the rider and all that kind of stuff, but...
Actually, okay, it really depends on bike and rider because, for example, back in my college club, we have like a couple of guys who ride steel bikes, but they're really, really strong. Like they can straight up win races, like collegiate races with other competitors riding carbon and steel bikes, carbon and alu bikes. Like your specialized sprint, like Ale sprint, that kind of stuff. or they have even people riding like a lot of track in Mondas actually, a lot of track in Mondas.
Do you race in the US?
I will not race my dogma.
You can bring this over and race, right?
That was actually the point of this bike, because I want to use this bike to race. Because imagine you crash out your dogma and your trim snaps in half.
But what if you don't crash? You might be on the podium. Not to say that you won't be on the podium on this, but you're putting much more power on this, right? Like you need much more effort on this compared to the F12.
I would say acceleration of the bike, you can feel the sluggishness because
You're talking about the F12?
the F12 feels like a rocket compared to this, because the F12 is so stiff throughout the frame. When you put the power down, you can almost feel it transfer directly to the wheels. But this bike, I can actually feel like the bottom bracket area sort of flex when you get out of the saddle and you really like try to sprint.
Before we go on to the bike, let's talk about you first. How long have you been riding and what got you into cycling?
Okay, honestly, I used to like cycle on like BCNs using those mountain bikes, like hardtail mountain bikes. I got one cheap one from like Giant. I think it was like $300, $400. And that I used for a couple of years, I'd say 4 or 5 years. But then, when it was just actually before COVID hit, I think I was just getting out of NS. My friend introed me to, like, he wanted to do a triathlon. So, like, he was like, he want friends to cycle with. So I said, okay, no problem, I join you on your cycling training. Then I realized he like a bit pek-cek because I was slowing him down. I was like maybe riding an average of about 18, 19 kph. The man's on a road bike, he wants to go like 30 kph.
Okay.
Then he was telling me, it's not about how strong you are, maybe it's the hard bike that's holding you back. I was like, okay, maybe I'll look for a road bike to see how true this is. But he gave me one very good piece of advice. No matter what road bike you buy from Carousel or whatever, make sure it's 105. Minimally 105. So actually, I still remember putting in Carousel every week. I'll check 105 and then whether it's under my budget. And eventually, I ended up with a Avanti bike, Avanti road bike. I don't remember.
Avanti?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I've heard of that.
It's a New Zealand brand, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a alu frame, and the bike weighed, I think, about 8.5 kg. It was a 10-speed 105. I mean, the bike served me very well. I think I rode almost 4 or 5,000 km on it before I decided to even upgrade any other way. But the thing is, that bike did not teach me so much about road cycling in the sense I didn't know road cycling was not supposed to be painful. Because I didn't go for any bike fit. Like my handlebars were too wide, my saddle was too high, I had the wrong shape of saddle. Okay, I don't know if you're going to censor this, but let's say your ass is not supposed to bleed when you cycle. I just want to say that.
Why was your ass even bleeding in the first place?
I did RTIs on that bike, and when I came back, right, I sit on the toilet, right, I wipe my ass, right, the blood was like,
were you even wearing cycling bibs in the first place?
Okay, I started off with cycling shorts, so at least I still had the pad. But then I slowly upgrade. I mean, you get like those China cycling bibs, and then you upgrade to, okay, to be fair, I never upgrade very far. I'm still wearing DHB. So DHB, I feel, is just about the right spot of value because I cycle, like probably in a week, I cycle maybe 3 times if I'm in the States and the weather is good. So if I'm putting it in the washing machine and the dryer, which you're not supposed to do, you're not supposed to put bibs in the dryer, but I don't care because they're like $40 US.
Yep.
If I'm buying ASOS, it's like $250. So I'm willing to like use them out within a year and just throw them away.
Yeah.
Just replace.
Yeah.
So like, for me, like I prefer 3 bibs to 1 bib. Yeah.
So the Avanti bike was totally the wrong size. Everything was just not right. And it was just your first bike, so I mean, honest mistake, right?
I would say probably I could have carried on using that bike if it was fitted properly for me because all I needed were a proper, like the proper stem length. I needed proper handlebars, and I needed the correct saddle to fit my ass.
But you rode 5,000 kilometers in that.
Yeah.
Dude, that's my Strava mileage for 2022.
But that was over a couple of years. I think it was 2019, 2020, and then all the way through 2020 and through half of 2019 were all on the bike.
So Avanti, and then you rode that, your ass was bleeding and shit, right? So
Yeah.
when you realized your ass was bleeding, you got a new bike, or?
I actually, the thing is that I didn't change my bike until I went over to the States. So when I went over to the States, the first bike I bought there, because I used to watch a lot of like Team Sky, you see like Chris Froome on the Pinarellos. So the first thing I wanted to do was buy a Pinarello. But back then I didn't know how I was going to transport my bike if I wanted to come home, like how I would do all that stuff. So I thought maybe I'll buy a affordable bike and maybe I'll sell it there. So I bought my Pinarello gun.
Okay.
So
Pinarello gun is not the... it's very underdog model of the Pinarello, right?
It is sort of what they say is an endurance frame that is based off the F8, but it's the frame is heavier, and they spec it out with 105 components, and even the 105 components, they aren't full 105 components. For example, I believe the crankset is non-series Shimano crank. They skimped out on like the headset and like stuff like that.
Why did you get a Pinarello gun and why not the other like F8, F10?
Money.
Okay, how much was it?
That was I believe it was about $2,200 US back then. Yeah.
Okay. Then how was the bike and how long did you ride it for?
I actually used it through 2021 or the whole year of 2021 and halfway through 2022. So that bike, I think I rode about 3,500 kilometers on it. So, it introduced me to a carbon bike. I realized that cycling doesn't have to destroy your spine because all the. I realized that I need to buy a better saddle.
Okay, so the saddle was the problem.
Yeah, because when I talk to people in the club or like when I was riding beside them, I was like, man, my ass hurts. But I didn't realize they looked at me like, no, my ass doesn't hurt.
Maybe it's because of the saddle being too high, the seat post.
It was probably that, but I didn't notice myself bobbing up and down on the seat like if your seat bow is too high. It turned out to be, my saddle back then was a Fizik Aliante R3, I think, with the carbon rails. The thing is that saddle has a pressure point right in the middle. So that basically goes up.
So
Yeah. So what I realized is that what I was looking for, especially the problem got very bad because I don't like to train my power. All I like to do is basically get as aero as I can.
and just ride fast.
And ride fast, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have no power. I have all aero. That's pretty much it.
So people told you, I mean, the guys from your club told you that, okay, you got to change out your saddle so the ass doesn't bleed.
Yeah, try out new saddles, like see what's good for you on the market. You're not supposed to be riding one day and then resting like for another 5 days so your ass does not bleed. Because one thing I noticed that they would ride for 2, 3, 4 days in a row, and I was like, how are you guys doing that?
Wait, so 3D, pre-3D, at that time, were there like even 3D saddles?
I think 2020 probably or 2021 definitely they had the power mirror that was out. But I was looking for a saddle that could hold me in a position that was sustained on the drops. Because I said I don't like to train my power, I prefer to be aero instead. So there were a couple of saddles that were recommended to me. For example, the power saddle, that specific shape. So it didn't have to be the super expensive power mirror. It could be like the power mimic or like power comp, something like that. But there was also the other one, the Shimano Pro Stealth saddle.
Which is the one that you're having
Which
here
is the
right
one that I have. I actually, because of that, how comfortable it was when I tried it out and on that bike. Now all my bikes have this saddle as well.
Let's talk about maybe if you could run us through the bikes. Then we have a lot of questions that we want to ask. And then
Okay.
you got live Q&A behind also.
Oh boy.
From your friends.
Uh-oh.
But let's go through your bike. Run us through your bike, man.
Okay, so this is a 1990s. I can't confirm whether it's 1995. The Rosa Professional SLX frame. So it says SLX because it uses only Columbus SLX tubing. And what I tried to do is basically it came to me as a frame only, like frame and fork, and with nothing else on the bike. I think I bought it for about €700. But what I wanted to do with this bike is because at the time that I bought this bike, it was probably in like September 2022, like this year. At that time, I already had my Dogma, which was what I wanted to build, like a fast, modern, like carbon fiber bike. And I already had my Schwinn, which is, it has a vintage Ultegra on it, and it is like, it has wheels that are appropriate for its era and stuff like that. So it's like, if you wanted to go back to the 1990s, you would probably ride that kind of bike. But I wanted something that was in between that I could probably race, and more importantly, I wouldn't be very sad if I actually crashed it out. But I wanted it to have the same performance as a modern bike, which is in terms of like gear shifting and how like it feels to handle and stuff like that. So I didn't want to deal with like those vintage technology down tube shifters. Yeah.
And then you already knew you wanted to get a vintage frame. How did you source this, and where did you get it from again?
So I got this bike from a collector in Spain, and he likes to collect vintage steel bikes from all around the world, but the ones that he keeps in his personal collection are frames that he buys for, with provenance that they have been ridden by the pro riders of that era. So you'll see a lot of, he won't even build some bikes up because he wants to make them as period accurate as possible. So he'll wait for the specific parts to come along and put them on those bikes. But for frames like these that he also comes along, he will buy them, but he'll resell them as well. It's a good business, I guess.
Okay, and then you got the frame shipped all the way from Spain to the US.
Yeah,
right?
it took I think about 3 weeks for it to arrive.
Not too long.
But
as compared to, I've interviewed someone who waited 2 years for a Bastion. So only took,
okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, then you got the frame, and you wanted to pair it up exactly like how it is, or was there like a story behind all this?
Okay, the group set has a story behind it, because when I first bought my F12's frame, I wanted to put a mechanical Ultegra group set on it, because I was a cheapskate. There's no way around it. I was a cheapskate. I wanted to save money, and at that point, I didn't have my very generous grant to allow me to buy the i2. But I brought my frame and the mechanical group set down to that bike shop for them to assemble for me. Then they realized one thing. My Dogma's frame didn't come with the mechanical adapter. So there's actually a little adapter that will allow you to run mechanical group sets through the frame. But otherwise, it's sort of like designed with an electronic group set in mind. So like it's almost like the mechanical is an afterthought.
Okay.
So I realized, shit, I just spent like $700 on Ultegra group set that I cannot use on my Dogma. So I sucked it up. So I put this Ultegra group set actually under my sink in a box, in one big box. So it's just an entire Ultegra group set. And I was telling people for a while, right, so now I have an Ultegra group set. Do you guys want to buy this?
Okay.
And this being college, and not many people want to drop like $700 on a group set to upgrade their bike. Most of them don't even run rim brakes anymore. So I just let it sit there. I also didn't want to sell it because, I mean, if I sold it, probably I would lose like $200 straight on the spot without even having put any kilometers on my group set. So I was like, if I'm going to lose $200, I might as well keep the group set brand new. So keep it under my sink. Maybe find a frame. It's a good excuse to build a new bike. Just leave it there.
But now you have, this is 105, right?
Yes, my crank is 105 because I've heard a lot of stories from this era of Ultegra and Dura Ace.
Delaminates?
Delaminates and cracks.
Okay, but I had mine with no issues.
But I kind of don't want to risk it because if I'm going for a sprint and it snaps on me, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I'd rather not.
Okay. So, wow. You guys want to ask some questions first before I ask the Q&A? Go on first? Okay. I think they want to roast you later. Okay, but let me start off, okay? The first question is, how does your spine feel? So this kind of... Okay, how tall are you, by the way?
I am 176, something like that, I think, yeah.
And you just shot...
5'10", yeah.
But were there like options for these kind of frames, like sizes, or is it all one size?
I would... No, because these are all vintage bikes. This, like, it's hard enough to find them as it is. You're buying secondhand. So... like, it's lucky that this frame, like, I would say I looked for frames that fit me first before I looked at what the frame was. So this is I look at the top tube length. So I usually ride a with a top tube length of 53 cm. So this has almost exactly 53 cm for its top tube. Yeah.
Okay, so this one was the frame size.
The right frame size for me, yeah.
Okay. Is rust the problem, and how do you manage?
Actually, that's a very good question because I see a lot of people saying they don't want to bring their carbon bikes out for winter because it gets very gritty, very like the snow turns to slush, and they like to sprinkle salt on the road to melt the snow, and they don't want that to corrode their carbon bikes with like their whatever steel or ceramics bearings. But they will buy a steel bike to use as a winter bike, which makes no sense because steel will rust even faster.
Yeah, unless you're looking at titanium, right?
Yeah, but I say in Singapore, rust might be a problem because humidity is always very high. It's always above like probably 70%. But over there, I would say humidity is hovering around 30 to 40%. So you really don't have to worry about rust. And when you assemble the steel bike, usually like mechanics who are used to working with steel bikes will spray the entire inside of the frame with something called frame saver, which is anti-corrosion spray.
And how heavy is this bike? We were just weighing it, just nothing was like, what, 9?
8.97, I think.
But
that
surprisingly, it's not that heavy though. Because like if you're looking at these brake bikes these days, my bike weighs 8 kilograms and this is like 900 grams heavier. Not that much.
I guess you have to consider the fact that this bike has...
Altegra.
First of all, it has a modern Altegra group set, which is one place you are saving weight on. It has modern carbon wheels, which is another place you're saving weight on. It has, I would say, probably a tubular tire setup is lighter than a clincher tire setup by a couple of grams, but it helps. It helps.
I forgot to ask you about the wheel set and the wheels. Interesting story is that you had a flat because these are tubulars, right? But
yes.
What wheel sets are these first?
These are
and hubs.
Custom built, I believe. Cymet 38 mil.
What's that, man? I've never heard of that.
Cymet, I think they're a company based in Chicago, I think. I have to check it out again. But they built custom rims and custom wheels. And they allow you to lace it up to whatever hubs you want.
So you've got this lace to...
These are White Industry T11 hubs, but the best thing is I didn't lace them up. What I did was actually, our club has a buy and sell page on our Slack. And this guy posted this exact wheel set for $250 US. No, I think he posted it for $300 US, but no one, like it was sitting there for a couple of weeks, I think 3 or 4 weeks. No one wanted to buy it because they were tubular tires. Like it was a tubular wheel set, no one runs tubulars because of how like, it is pretty troublesome because you have to glue them on and like if they flat, you can't change them out in the road and stuff like that. But I took a closer look, I was like, are those White Industry hubs? Don't those go for like $500 or $600 a set? I was like, yeah, I'll just buy them. No, I also was a little sneaky because he listed them for $300 and since no one had bought them yet, I was like, do you want to do $250? So yeah, he basically gave away the rims for half the price of his hubs.
Right. So, but the issue was because you only can run tubular, is it?
In his current setup, you can only run tubulars on these
wheels.
Set. Yeah.
That is the reason why you're on tubulars.
That's the reason why I'm on tubulars. Yeah.
Which sucks, right?
It is fine in the sense that I don't have to carry any additional weight. I don't have to carry a CO2. I don't have to carry tire levers. I don't have to carry a spare tube. Because if I flat, that's it. I just call a Lala move and go home. So
you had an incident here in Singapore, or you had a flat?
Yeah, no. The very first ride I did when I got back to Singapore, I'm not sure whether it was the potholes or just like the debris on the road. But the very first thing that happened to me, I think along Fort Road, was I noticed that it got harder and harder to pedal. I was like, why is it so hard to like? It feels like putting the same amount of power going 25 that like I would usually go at like 45 or something like that. I was like, am I really like bonking? Am I super weak? What's going on? Then I realized my rear wheel was bouncing at every like wheel revolution. So I was like, do I have a flat?
So pretty much screwed once you get a flat, right? There's nothing you can do.
Like I would say, because my mechanic is very very old school. Like he's wise old man, bald, like grey beard, that kind of stuff. Like he recommends to bring a spare tubular tire. I'm like, bring a whole ass new tire.
Can you kind of fold it?
You can fold a tubular, but it will end up being the size of like a bottle essentially.
Oh, okay.
So you either have to strap that under your saddle, or you have to probably sacrifice one of your bottle cages.
But do you feel any difference running tubulars?
The tubulars feel amazing to ride because, like, you know how clinchers, they sort of like, I would say, they are not as supple, but because tubulars are sort of like, you glue the whole thing on the rim, and they're allowed to like expand, and like the rim is flat. There's no hooks or anything like that. And to top it off, there's actually latex tubes in these tubulars. Like some companies will make them with butyl tubes, but Vittoria uses latex. So it has probably the best like ride and cornering quality of any tire I've tried so far. But that means I haven't tried tubeless, so
On your F12, you're running
I'll
clinchers.
try that. On my F12, I'm running tube clinchers, yeah.
Tube clinchers. Okay.
So I'm running GP5Ks with actually those TPU tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But coming back to the frame, right? Do you have any issues or like compatibility issues? I'm assuming there must be some.
Interestingly, because I bought this frame in the 1990s era, that was right when I think they were starting to transition to either like they tried out titanium, and they tried out a bit of alu, but like it was right between the transition period between like steel and like alu and like carbon. So the front and rear dropout like standards are exactly the same for a modern rim brake bike. So I didn't have to do any conversions of that sort at all. But I guess I was restricted in a few ways. For example, like you see the stem and bar setup. Because my fork is a threaded fork, and it requires a threaded headset. So I can, if I don't want to mess around with like mods and stuff, the only way I can put a bars and stem on is I can't use those modern like threadless stems. I have to use a quill stem, which is very heavy, and it only allows me to use metal handlebars instead of like carbon, which means like I can't save weight on that front.
Okay. I'll continue with the questions. How's the performance of... don't worry, no roast yet. You guys want to...
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
you guys get the chance to roast later? No, they don't want? Okay. They're signaling me to pass. Okay.
Okay.
How's the performance?
I guess the bike is... it fits exactly what I wanted it to be, which is a nice training bike that I can ride for long hours while still being very comfy in the saddle because it absorbs all the road vibrations. I think I actually took this bike out for a gravel ride once. A pretty short section, like probably 5 kilometers of gravel. But one thing I realized is that it almost feels like the suspension, even running like 25, 28 tires, it almost feels like the suspension like helping absorb all that vibration. So it may not be the fastest bike outright, but if I want to use this for a lot of my training and a lot of my just riding in general, just enjoying to ride, this is a great bike.
Okay. Next questions are on your group sets. This kind of bikes needs to come with Campy. Classic Italian frame must use Campy. Why do you have Shimano group set on an Italian frame?
Okay, that's actually a very good question.
Because of the Altegra sitting in the sink, right?
Because it's the Altegra sitting in the sink.
If it wasn't the Altegra sitting in the sink...
If I did not have a spare group set lying around, like brand new group set lying around, I would probably have put Campy 10-speed or 11-speed record on it. Because I really love the way that Campy looks.
But a lot of people say getting Campy, you have problem with servicing. Like I don't know about in the US, but in Singapore, that's what I heard. Like people don't want to service Campy because they don't have tools for it, and yeah, it's quite a pain to service.
The mechanic that I always use, he actually loves Campy. So he knows exactly how to maintain and like service and tune up Campy parts. In fact, he actually recommended, like when I was building a wheel set for my Schwinn, he recommended either I get Shimano Ultegra or Dura Ace like vintage hubs, or he actually had quite a few Campy. I think they were Novo record. I think those are really old, but he showed me like how well they spun. I was like, these are like 40, 50 old bearings. They spin almost like frictionless. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. Did you get the rear dropouts widened in order to fit the current cassette?
Okay, yeah, that brings me back to what I was talking about earlier in that because I bought a bike that was built in the 1990s during the transition period, these dropouts are natively compatible with our modern like rear wheels.
So if you were to get a bike that is pre-1990s, you might have an issue with that.
So what people do is that they call it cold setting. Basically you just stretch lah.
Hey viewers, I have this old road bike frame here and it was set up as a 12-speed. So that means that the spacing between the dropouts is about 126 millimeters. What I want to do is I want to set this frame up so that I can put like a more modern wheel on there with like 8, 9, or 10 speed on the back here. And the spacing for those wheels is 130 millimeters between the dropouts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this rear triangle here in a process called cold setting. So basically I'm going to bend this out. Only attempt this on a steel frame. Do not do this on an aluminum frame, a carbon fiber frame, or titanium frame. Only on a steel frame can you do this safely. And I'm going to show you the whole process of doing that. There are different methods that you actually use to expand this rear triangle. The first involves a relatively expensive tool called a tube straightener from Park Tool, an FFS2. And it's basically a big crowbar kind of thing here. And so what I can do is rest this part against the frame there. Got this little hook here, kind of hook under there like this. And then holding the frame down with my foot, I can use this to kind of like just pry this up and to expand the triangle like that. But as I said, this is a relatively expensive tool. Now another method is just to use a big board. And there's a couple ways you can use a big board like this. I have a piece of rag here, just kind of protect the paint there. And I just set that there, and I have another piece of rag here, just kind of set this here like this. Now what I can do is use it as a lever like this, and just like lift this just straight up like this. That's one method. Or I can bring this over here like this, and I might want to turn this up here like this, get a little height there. And now if I push down here like this, it's going to push down against the seat tube and then lift this up like that. Now my preferred method for expanding the rear triangle is using a threaded rod with some nuts and washers. And how this works is it's going to fit inside the dropouts, and I'm going to expand this, tighten this nut here, so that it's actually just going to push these out like this. And so to do this, I actually like to have a combination wrench here, just going to fit that on there like that. Just makes it easier to have it like that. And I'm going to fit this on here in the dropouts with the washers inside, and then kind of spin this nut out there like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start tightening this nut and push the rear triangle out. And I can't just push it out to 130 millimeters and expect it to stay, because if I push it out to 130 millimeters, it's just going to spring right back to where it was. I need to actually push it out much farther, and then when I release the tension on this, it'll come back in. And what I need to do is repeatedly keep pushing out farther and farther until it finally comes to rest at 130 millimeters.
Stretch the...
There's a specific way to do it, but you basically widen the rear dropouts like that. Yeah.
Will that affect the structure of the frame?
From what I've read, you can risk cracking the frame under that stress, but since it's a steel bike, you could probably just weld it again, especially if it's a thick welded frame.
Yeah. Did you restore the paint, or this is original?
This is fully original paint. Yeah, there's a lot of battle scars on it that I want to keep there. I mean, if you like cameras and you like watches, you know what patina is, so just keep it there.
Yeah. Yeah, you got anything to say?
I mean, I have thought about, on the topic of paint, because of, I had a slight obsession with actually weight weaning this bike.
Are you able to even weight wean? The frame itself is kind of heavy, right?
But I can replace the fork. Because Columbus these days, they make a fork that's meant for that kind of like steerer tube. But it's carbon. So my fork itself, I believe, is about 600, roughly around 600 grams. But those carbon forks can weigh up to like, 300, 270 grams? So I'm just shaving off 300 grams, or like half the weight of the fork right there.
Right. The next question then is, in your opinion, for a fantastic bike, steel versus carbon, which is better? Which is the choice?
It really is a right tool for the right job kind of question, because if I were, let's say, going out on a fast ride and I knew the pace was going to be high and I knew there were like sprint points that I wanted to go for, the best tool for that job would be the dogma, hands down, any day. Because just the position that I can get in, because this bike actually has an issue with the quill stem.
With the stem.
Yeah, because that's actually as far as I can slam the stem down.
Oh, actually, that's the question, right? So the next question is, are you able to slam the stem? You can't.
That's it. That really is it. We modified the bike to put it even further down, and that's it. That's always our goal.
So I'm not sure if you know, like these kind of frames at that time when you buy, you are not given the option of adjusting the steer tube, the length, like you can't slam it or adjust.
A quill stem is actually a stem that actually goes down into the steer tube. So you can unscrew the bolt, like you loosen the bolt at top, and you can actually extend or drop the, like you can basically modify the stack by
so you can do
extending
it.
or dropping. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there's a limit to how low you can go with that.
And this is the lowest.
That's the lowest, even with the modifications.
So it's like a one-piece handlebar, right?
That is pretty much
Oh no, you still got the stem and then you still got the handlebar.
it's a one piece in a different way. It's like it's attached to the
Okay.
steer tube. Yeah.
Okay. Let me look at the next question. Okay, we already asked the weight. Is there a maximum tire clearance?
I would say these frames, the frame itself can take up to probably like a 30 or 30.
But you're already running 28, right? It's 25 or 28.
These at higher PSI still balloon out to 28s roughly. So that's why they, yeah. But the thing is, I've seen a lot of people, they will not run like these normal road rim brakes. So they'll find special rim brakes that are like either, I don't know what they call long reach or something like that, but with more tire clearance. So they can run wider modern tires like 30, 32s.
You ready for the roast? Not sure if it's a roast or not.
Perfect, let's go.
Okay,
I love the roast.
Why build with modern black parts on such a beautiful steel frame? Slap on some silver grupo. You see the Cannondale here with
That is
silver.
amazing. Okay.
I don't like it though. I'm not a fan. I think black one looks nice.
I share the same view as my mechanic, which is probably a result of him brainwashing me. But on a bike with thin steel tubing like this, I feel like the vintage, like say Dura Ace, like 7400 with the five bolt spiders, and you can actually like see through, like they skeletonize the whole cranks. It looks very elegant compared to like modern group sets where like the crank is like so huge and beefy. And I think the only reason why this black group set works on this bike is because I'm running carbon rims. Because
Yes.
if I put on like those vintage like box section alu rims, it will look very out of place. Because you have a bike with thin tubes and thin wheels, and you have this big like mass of like group set here.
Yeah, but how do you know which bike to take out on your rides? You have the steel and the F12. Is it more of like depending on your mood which bike you want to take out?
It actually sort of depends on my mood, but most of the time I would say that no. Actually, sometimes what I will do is basically I'll go to my girlfriend and I'll ask her like, "What bike do you want to see out on the road today?"
Is your girlfriend a cyclist?
Yes, she's a cyclist. She rides a track in Monda.
Imonda. What's up with the Imonda? Is it not a bike that you like?
It's not a bike that she likes either, because like she's always wanted a Caledonia 5 in the
I think I filmed
Oasis. Yeah, exactly in
the
that
one that I
colorway.
filmed?
In
Oh,
that
okay.
colorway, she's wanted that for I think 1 year or over a year.
That's like an endurance frame, right? Is it endurance? I'm not too sure.
I feel like I'm going to be sleeping on the couch if I when I go
Okay,
back.
let's move on. We don't want you to be sleeping on the couch. You said that a steel bike is comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So this user would like to know, how does the ride comfort feel compared to newer bikes? Is it noticeably different?
When you say newer bikes, I'm assuming
Let's
he's
compare it to your
referring.
F12, which
Okay,
is kind of
so
new.
in a weird sort of way, I would say that a lot of what makes a steel bike compliant is actually the fork up front. So like your carbon forks are very they absorb like the road vibrations, but you can almost like, especially on like uneven roads or like really bad or like really badly paved roads or gravel, you can actually see the steel fork like almost flexing at the front. So I feel a lot of comfort comes from just that compliance at the front. And of course, at the back, I would say just the ability for like the whole frame, because it's not a very stiff frame. In fact, I think if you really want to do it, you can actually step on the pedals and like you just hold the bike and you step on the pedals.
Yeah.
And you'll see the thing like kind of bend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you climb with this bike? I mean, obviously you can, but is it a struggle?
I did do some I did do some buying and selling of my group set, so I could accommodate climbing with this bike. So this bike actually had my group set actually had a 105 crankset with chain rings that were 5339, I think. Yeah, 5339, and a rear cassette of I think 1125.
Right.
And no way am I climbing on that kind of crankset.
It's a bit tough, right?
I actually have that. I have like that exact like combination on my Schwinn, and I brought that for a couple like short climbs. And yeah, great. You like it's good training, but like you don't want to ride that every single day. So I have a 50-34 on the front and 11-28 at the back. So
Can you slap on an OSPW on this? Just curious.
You can. There's nothing stopping you from putting one huge one here.
No, you know what? It would be funny. You put on an OSPW, you get some 3D printed saddle.
No, there was
That would
actually
be the ultimate troll.
there was a discussion about this. I was talking to one of my club mates, and I was telling her like, wouldn't it be nice if I brought a vintage thing steel bike out for a ride? And halfway through, what you can hear is like the front derailleur shifting of a Di2.
So you can't put the Di2. We were just talking just now. We can't put Shimano Di2, but there might be a possibility you can put SRAM.
You could actually drill like a couple holes like here. I actually talked about it with my mechanic, and it's those kind of curiosity where you like watching a train wreck, but you cannot look away. He was like, I mean, like basically in English, it's can is can.
Yeah.
So you can drill a hole there. You can wire the Di2 up to the front derailleur, and you could probably thread it through here because it's still all hollow.
Yeah.
The lugs themselves are hollow, so you could probably run them down. They may actually make 27.2 either carbon or alu seat posts. I think Dada, but a couple Dada Elementi, but there are other couple companies who make the same thing that allow you to put a Di2 battery in the seat post, just like your modern bikes.
Will it fit through the tubing, no? The Di2?
Junction box wise, I think you just throw it probably somewhere in
Maybe
this
it
tube.
might fit. Yeah. I don't think it's that big.
Or if not, you can put the junction box A in like the. Oh yeah, that's a good question.
Just now they were suggesting why don't you just tape it on the top tube, right?
Probably. Just wrap it in a lot of like duct tape and just stick it there. Make sure it's waterproof.
Yeah. Huh? SRAM AXS.
That's a good point, because a lot of there are a lot of people who are actually taking these old frames and they're putting like deep section carbon wheels. Like they change the fork to a carbon fork and they put like a threadless.
Just buy SF7.
I'm not sure why they're doing it, but the results are quite cool in that you basically have a modern bike that everything is modern on it except the frame. So you could quite literally copy and paste a picture of a frame set and put it over that bike and it'll look normal. It'll look like a modern bike.
Okay, I got two more questions. Running out of time.
Okay.
House maintenance like? Is there anything that you need to maintain specifically for this kind of bikes?
I would say there's nothing special about maintaining a steel frame itself. Just maybe every 5 years, I would say, just bring it down to the bike shop and make sure they respray the frame saver in the frame.
Okay.
Make sure
it's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, and these days there are stainless steel bikes, so that requires even less maintenance.
Last question. How do you source classic frames with correct size? Usually it's pretty big. Are you able to find frames that are smaller?
I've seen like I would say top tubes of size 50 would be equivalent to maybe a 40, 49, 51 size frame. I mean, when you go and look for vintage frames like this, you have to accept that if you want to find, you are limited by how many frames there are left on the market. So you go out there looking for the frame size first, and then you see what's available and that you would like to own, I guess.
And where can I find these kind of frames? Just go on Marketplace?
Actually, I found them a lot on, I wouldn't say Facebook Marketplace, but there are a lot of Facebook groups dedicated to like buying and selling of these kind of frames.
Okay.
So there are a lot of members who always post like either full builds of like you will see like fully built bikes with period correct parts, or they will sell the frame only.
Are there like fake vintage? I'm not sure if anybody wants to make a fake one, but are there any?
I wouldn't say fake, but you have to watch if they have been repainted, if that's something you care about.
And how do I tell?
If it looks too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. Yeah.
And is there a way to authenticate these kind of frames?
There,
No serial number that I can scan on
the
an
bottom
app.
bracket, actually, there is a serial number. And you can actually contact, like, I know Eddie Merce still keeps records of all their old steel frames that they made.
Really?
So you can pinpoint what year it was made. De Rosa, you could probably do that too, but I'm too lazy to. Yeah. But a lot of companies will keep records of their frames, and you can ask like, you can write them an email and see like when your bike was made and like, yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. That's all. Anything else you would like to address the audience and your... Oh, we got a question.
okay,
Yes,
the road
this, yeah.
Ask him about the TMCR incident.
There's a TMCR incident.
Oh, the one in the wonderful lorry.
And there's a lorry.
Oh, I don't think that's a bike related question though.
Oh, but
Very bike-related question. We actually had to stop a bike because of someone.
you guys were riding together? Oh, what happened?
That was on the Avanti.
It's already on camera. Might as well just...
Okay, so I'm almost like admitting to a crime, but you know TMCR, there's like when you're headed southbound towards NSRCC, there are a couple of like traffic lights that you could possibly run.
Oh, don't worry. I would assume a lot of people have done it.
The thing is, I spotted a lorry turning right across that a little too late, so I had only two choices: either keep going straight, maybe try to go faster, and beat the lorry, or get hit by it, or like jam brake.
Rim brakes.
The rim brakes had so much stopping power that I flipped off the bike.
Wait. So what happened? You saw the lorry crossing your path.
Yeah.
So what was the decision? Was it choice A or choice B?
Choice B,
Both?
I jammed brakes.
Yeah.
I panicked a little too hard. I squeezed the front a little too hard. I basically flipped off my bike.
Oh, shit. But you don't have any scars on your body
Actually, I have quite a few scars.
from that incident?
They're mostly on my elbows, actually. I think that one was this scar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So did the lorry driver come down and like flip you the middle finger or something?
Honestly, I'm glad. I don't think he even saw. he probably just saw some
It's
guy
probably
like flip off his bike. And
this
he's like,
bunch of losers finally.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've had quite a few more accidents. I mean, it's a matter of when, not if. Road cycling. For
Over
me,
here
anyway.
or in the
over
US?
there as well.
Right, yeah lah.
Yeah, the way I ride, probably, yes.
So, tell us like what's how do you
That one was I love my luck for that one. So I was riding on the road. I didn't like the road looked pretty well paved, so I just looked down to grab my water bottle because I was riding alone. There was no traffic around me, like in front of me. I looked down, grabbed my water bottle, looked up, pothole. Was like,
bunny hop?
no, there was no time to react or anything. I hit the pothole, tried to control my bike as well as possible, did not work. Road rash all across my back.
Oh damn.
So
Was it better than the your asshole bleeding though?
arguable.
That's funny. Oh god. Okay. Yeah, we got another one.
Aero water bottle when?
What water bottle?
When Aero water bottle?
Aero water bottle.
On this bike?
Yeah, you love Aero what?
No. I can't do aero water
Wait,
bottles.
sorry. On aero bottles, right? Is this cage painted to match the frame?
I found these are Bontrager bottle cages that somehow exactly match
Yeah,
the
man,
shape of the
good.
frame.
Okay.
Which was, the moment I saw them, I had to buy them. Best part, they were on 50% sale.
Wait, why can't you put aero water bottles?
I could, but my entire bike is not aero, so why would I?
Might as well, right? Put the OSPW. Yeah, you say you're an aero guy, right? No, I think if
mean-
it's an aero guy, he shouldn't even be riding this frame.
When I'm on this bike, I'm okay. To be fair, I still go in the drops, which are pretty aggressive. If you look at my drops, these are traditional drop bars.
But they're quite shallow from the tops to the drops.
Very deep, dude.
I think you're not looking at it correct. I mean, if you stand out, you can see how much of a drop it is.
Okay, later when we film, then I'll
Yeah.
see it.
When
Okay.
you draft film, right, there's no draft at all.
There's no draft. I think it's because of the geometry of the frame, right? It's so humongous, like so old school.
It is probably the illusion of it being huge is because the top tube is
very
straight.
high up.
Yeah.
Sitting
So
very
it
high
looks like there's almost no seat seat post coming out of the frame.
Okay. Any more roast? Nothing? I think we're good. You have anything else to address your audience who might be watching this video?
If I don't pull, it's because I'm a sprinter.
Is that true?
1,200 watts.
1,200 watts. Wow. You have a power meter here?
Because you can't
I've
Because he can't climb.
keep up with him anymore.
I can keep up with him on motorcycle.
Oh man. Okay lah. I think we wrap it up here. 50 minutes, man.
50 minutes, okay.
50, yeah.
Holy shit,
50
okay.
minutes. Round of applause to Hern, man. Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming.
Sweet.
Bloodshot eyes, can't sleep, I'm rotting in my bed. Even the drugs don't faze me. I don't think you understand, I gave you everything I had when the shit go wrong. And now you got me wondering why you let me die alone inside. I died for you, I cried for you, I tried for you. Tell me why you left me bleeding.